Okay, this is Orlando Wilson, and what I want to talk about in this video is something that's tends not to be mentioned too much these days in reference to kidnap and ransom, etc. And that's how people will be treated if they're actually kidnapped. The kidnap and ransom business has been overly glamorized over the last couple of decades, usually through the media, Hollywood movies, social media, etc. It's all very glamorous and polished, etc. Also, with a multitude of hostile environment courses out there and who's doing fake interrogations where people are interrogated, kidnapped, and then given tea and biscuits, I think things have got a little bit watered down. And I've had this conversation with a few people, and one person comes to mind, and I was talking about this, and like, oh, the best part of their hostile environment course, they reckon everybody said was when they were fakely kidnapped and interrogated. And I think this gentleman has had a little bit of a sheltered life, and I said to him, okay, what did they do? They just got pushed around and shouted at, etc. And when I explained the realities of what will most probably happen if they're kidnapped, they're like, oh, but that's not going to happen, is it? Yes, it is going to happen. And let me highlight a few things as I talk about things in this video. I'll talk about in another video, and I've spoken about it in other videos, about kidnap and ransom insurance and what you can expect if you're kidnapped and if you have kidnap and ransom insurance, which to me is a big scam. Anyway, back on topic here. In a kidnapping situation, and I know of a few people that's died during kidnapping attempts and kidnapping situations because they've had heart attacks. They got stressed, etc., had a heart attack then and there, and that's it, it's over. You can expect to experience violence during a kidnapping situation because, again, the kidnappers need to take control of you, and they're not going to be too nice about it. And this is where I say to people about the interrogations on hostile environment courses, etc. And I was like, okay, were you hit? Were you punched? Were you kicked? No. Okay, why not? Well, you can't do that on most courses because then you could be sued or the police will turn up and you can be arrested because you've assaulted somebody, etc. You know what? The kidnappers aren't really going to be worried about that. If you're kidnapped, and this especially applies to express kidnappings, etc. These days, always, I suppose, you can expect to be sexually assaulted, males and females. There's many cases I know of where the women for sure are going to be raped. That's it. Guaranteed. And you don't have to just worry about the threat from pregnancies, etc., but also STDs, etc. I know of cases where males have been raped as well. Why? To show control. Off topic, I know of one home invasion in a Caribbean island where the home invaders broke into this middle-class couple's house, and they didn't believe that they didn't have more assets than they had. So they gang raped the woman, the wife, in front of the husband, and then they gang raped the husband in front of the wife, just to ensure that they were telling the truth and they didn't have more assets and they were trying to hide things. That was also good for that gang because the whole area knew about it, so if they broke into somebody else's house, the locals would be a lot more compliant and give them what they wanted rather than having to go through what that couple went through. I know of cases, I know of one case, again in the Caribbean, where one hostage was very well looked after. He was brought ice cream. He could have whatever food he wanted. He was well taken care of, and yes, a ransom was paid, and he was released. I know of another case in the same area where another gentleman spent his time as he was a hostage until a ransom was paid, and he was lucky to be released. He got beaten badly, especially on the thighs, with the backs of machetes. They pulverized his legs. And he couldn't walk when he was released, and it took him months to be able to walk again. So this is where how people are treated, how can I put it? Don't expect to be put in a hotel room somewhere and be given 3 meals a day and etc. unless you're very, very lucky like that one gentleman. You can expect to experience violence. You can expect to be poorly treated. And this is something that a lot of people, especially on the the kidnap and ransom, well, the hostile environment courses are not going to tell you. They might tell you things, but I had this, again, another conversation with somebody who referenced the kidnap and ransom prevention courses we provide, and I tell them the content we put in there, and like, oh, but you can't talk about that. You can't talk about people being raped and everything else. And we show violent video. We don't bother with the fake interrogations because to me it's BS. But I've got a few videos I can show people to make you understand why you don't want to be kidnapped. And the person I was talking to come back to me and say, oh, but you can't really show that. You upset people. Okay, I'll leave it there because that sums up the state of the hostile environment training business at the moment, etc., where people are more worried about being offended than actually training people to deal with reality. So this is where the emphasis needs to be on not being kidnapped in the first place. If you think the fact that you have a kidnap and ransom insurance policy and people are going to come and rescue you, etc., you're living in a fantasy world, a complete fantasy world. You don't want to get kidnapped in the first place. You think of what could happen to you within an hour, let alone days and weeks, months, etc. And again, if you're kidnapped, there's no guarantee that even if a ransom is paid that you will be released. So the emphasis is on do not get kidnapped. We train people not to get kidnapped. Anyway, follow me along on social media. I've got a lot more of these videos up there to talk about various aspects of the security business, kidnap and ransom, close protection, etc. I also have an array of books up on Amazon. One specifically talks about kidnap and ransom. We're tending to provide only private kidnap and ransom courses these days, kidnap and ransom prevention courses. So reach out to me if you have any questions or if you want to book a course. In the meantime, be good, stay safe, and as always, stay out of trouble. And don't believe the propaganda that people's putting out there. If you're going into places where you stand the risk of being kidnapped, you need to be well prepared. Be good, stay safe, and stay out of trouble.